KT McFarland is with us. Actually, brought her into the set, on the set here in New York City. Very changing it up a bit now. What is going on here? This is a serious thing.
This is really serious. This is constitutionally serious because there's a chain of command. So it's the president to the Secretary of Defense to the United States military. The Deputy Secretary of Defense was on the beach in Puerto Rico. The Secretary of Defense was in the ICU, maybe conscious, maybe not. The Chief of Staff at the Pentagon, she was out sick. So who was in charge here? Now, what would have happened, Stuart, if a ship had been sunk in the Red Sea? We all are waiting for this to happen any minute. The other shoe is going to drop. Who would have been in charge? Would the president have been informed? Maybe he didn't know anything about it either. The Secretary of State didn't know about it. The National Security Advisor didn't know about it. There is a serious breach in the chain of command, and somebody's got to be held accountable. And they're still not fessing up to what happened. Elective surgery? What's that? I mean, like, I had a facelift or something?
Well, why would he have elective surgery right around Christmas time? Why would he do that when we're being attacked overseas? Why do you elect to have surgery at that point?
It's just all wrong. There's something very, very wrong about this. And
who really is running the show?
Well, I think that, you know what I really think it is? I think it's an example of what's happened in Washington, that the federal bureaucracy is running everything. They're putting the words in the teleprompter. Do you think Joe Biden is really making those decisions? Yeah. Whoever puts the decisions is putting them in the teleprompter. He's reading them. The Pentagon, the professional bureaucracy, it's the guys who the faceless, unaccountable bureaucrats who have just gotten a 5% pay raise and who have an automatic cost of living increase in their salaries. Those are the guys running things. That's the real enemy.
Well, the president has said that he is still backing Austin. I think that's the words used here. The president says that. Do you think Austin has to go?
I think he has to come up with some very good explanations of what went wrong. Why there was a huge breach in the chain of command.
When our rivals and enemies overseas look at this, what do you think they say?
I was in the White House when Richard Nixon resigned in 1974. And one of our main concerns at the time was that the world was looking and saying, there's a vulnerability. There's an American president who's about to be impeached. He's going to resign. There's no elected vice president. There was a vice president, but he hadn't been elected by the American people. He had been appointed and confirmed. But Henry Kissinger, who was Secretary of State, he went around the world saying, don't worry, it's not a constitutional crisis. Everything's going to be just fine. Right now, an adversary looks at this and says, who's in charge? Joe Biden? Don't think so. Secretary of Defense? You know, unconscious in the ICU. They don't know who's in charge, and that's when they take advantage.
Let me change subject for a second. Israel's president, Isaac Herzog, he sounded off on the displaced Palestinians of Gaza. Roll tape, please.
Absolutely, absolutely not. Totally not agreed, or is not the position of the Israeli government or the Israeli parliament or the Israeli public. But we are a democracy, and in democracy you have a variety of ideas. So in a cabinet of 30 ministers, where it's not the security cabinet, a minister can say whatever he wants. I may not like it, but this is Israeli politics.
Okay, so no plan to expel Palestinians from Gaza. So you tell me, where are they going to live and who's going to be in charge of Gaza?
Now, and this is the big problem. If we all think that it was hard for the IDF to get rid of Hamas, and they're doing it very well, what happens next is the really hard part. You have 2 million Palestinians. They've all left the north. They're now in the south. What normally happens if there's a war? Refugees go to another country, a nearby country. None of the nearby countries will take the Palestinians. The Egyptians won't take them because they think that they're not going to be able to absorb, say, 100,000 or 500,000 Palestinians. They think they're going to be importing a revolution. They think they're going to be importing Muslim Brotherhood. Jordan doesn't want them. Jordan had a civil war in the 1970s of Palestinians versus Jordanians. The Saudis don't want them. Nobody wants them in the Middle East, and then nobody's willing to pay for it. All those rich Gulf Arab countries, they don't want to pay for rebuilding because they think, well, it's just going to be another war. I don't know how anybody solves this, but the one person who should not be trying to solve it is the President of the United States. We have shown we are really lousy at telling countries, you should have this kind of a government. This is how you should run your things, whether it was Vietnam, Afghanistan, Iraq. We should not be in telling the Israelis how to do it, or how it's got to be the people in the region.
I'm just going to excuse myself for 1 second. I've got something on the prompter here which I've not seen before. We just got the Secretary Austin and Biden authorized the January 4th strike in Baghdad before Austin was hospitalized. Okay, that's okay.
Important. That's important, but that's okay. Normally, in a situation like that, the intelligence community, the military, comes to the president through the Secretary of Defense, through the National Security Advisor, and says, these are the options we have. What do you want to do? And the president says, I'll take that option, and I'll give you the go-ahead now. And then when the moment is right, you take that shot. And so that's appropriate, that it would have been prior authorization. It's not because he was in the hospital. That's exactly the way they do things, because they want to wait. They don't want to have the president say, okay, now go, and then they go. The president will say, take your best shot when you can take your best shot, and that's what this is.
And that's what they did. So the decision was made by the President of the United States, and he said, hit him. That's it. Okay, that's legit.
That's totally legit.
So we know who was in charge of that particular operation.
That one we do.
Now we straighten that one out. KT McFarland, thank you very much for being with us, and enjoy your time in New York City.
Thank you, Stu.
Have a blast.